Welcome to English Easy Hub. Join us as we ignite the flames of your English learning journey together.
Please subscribe to watch and embark on your English learning journey. Don't miss out on the exciting content. In this conversation, Andy seeks guidance from his professor on improving spoken English skills. The professor offers a structured approach by addressing key elements: pronunciation, intonation, rhythm, flow, listening, contextual communication skills, and grammar. The goal is to build not just accuracy, but also adaptability and naturalness in spoken English. Each section dives into practical tips and in-depth insights on mastering these aspects, helping Andy understand how these components interconnect to achieve more fluent, expressive communication.
Hi, Professor. I've been trying to improve my spoken English, but I feel like I'm not progressing as quickly as I'd like. Could you give me a structured approach to follow?
Of course, Andy. Let's break this down into some key areas: pronunciation, intonation, rhythm, flow, listening, contextual communication skills, and grammar. Mastering these elements will definitely elevate your speaking skills.
Great! Let's start with pronunciation. I've been working on individual sounds, but I still struggle with certain words.
Pronunciation is foundational. However, it's more than just mastering individual sounds. You need to understand phonetic patterns. English is full of subtle changes, like how vowels can shift depending on stress. Try to focus on minimal pairs such as ship and sheep or bad and bet. This kind of practice will train your ear to pick up on tiny differences, which are crucial for clear speech.
That makes sense. I sometimes can't tell the difference between sounds like those. So, working on minimal pairs could fine-tune my pronunciation?
Exactly. Another key tip is to observe the way native speakers use their lips, tongue, and jaw. The placement of these is critical. When listening to native speakers, don't just hear them, watch them too. This visual element is often underestimated. Also, try shadowing techniques where you imitate a native speaker's sentence right after they say it.
Understood. Moving on to intonation, this has been a real challenge for me. I think I speak too flatly sometimes.
Intonation is indeed tricky, but vital. It's the melody of language. Intonation conveys emotions, emphasis, and intent. Practice distinguishing between rising and falling intonation patterns. For instance, questions in English often rise at the end, while statements fall. Additionally, mimicry can be powerful here. Shadow native speakers by repeating sentences with the same rise and fall in tone.
I've heard that mimicking can really help. I guess it's like learning a song by repeating it over and over?
Precisely. Think of language as musical. Just like a melody, intonation in English has rhythm and pitch, which brings us to our next point: rhythm.
Rhythm. I've read that rhythm is important, but I'm not quite sure what it means in terms of speaking English.
Good question. In English, rhythm is largely determined by the distinction between stressed and unstressed syllables. Native speakers naturally stress key words in a sentence, creating a flow that's easier for listeners to follow. To practice this, try reading sentences aloud while tapping your hand. Emphasize the stressed syllables and let the unstressed ones flow more softly.
So, it's almost like learning a beat?
Exactly. It's a beat, a pattern of stresses that gives sentences their natural flow. This is a crucial step because once you master rhythm, the overall flow of your speech improves.
That brings us to flow. I often feel like my sentences are too choppy. How do I smooth them out?
Good observation, Andy. Flow is all about connecting words naturally, which is linked to the rhythm we just discussed. Native speakers use linking sounds to merge words in a sentence, creating a seamless effect. For instance, in wanna, native speakers often say wanna. It's not about slurring words, but making your speech more fluid.
That's interesting. So, improving flow is about understanding how words connect naturally?
Yes, and practicing those connections. You could read transcripts of natural speech or practice phrases aloud to develop the habit of connecting words smoothly. Flow comes with familiarity, so the more you practice, the easier it becomes. And don't forget the importance of pauses. Well-placed pauses create a natural flow and make your speech more engaging.
Got it. Now, what about listening? I imagine improving listening skills plays a big role in speaking better.
Absolutely. Listening and speaking are two sides of the same coin. You need to immerse yourself in various English accents and registers. Podcasts, movies, and casual conversations are all excellent resources. When listening, actively focus on the speaker's word choice, sentence structures, and delivery. Additionally, summarize what you hear. It strengthens comprehension and enhances your ability to respond thoughtfully.
I tend to listen to the news, but I guess I should try more varied sources?
Exactly. News broadcasts often have a formal tone. Try informal sources like conversations or vlogs, where you'll hear more everyday language. Variety is key to developing adaptable listening skills. And take note of conversational cues, how people take turns, interrupt, or confirm understanding. Those subtle things improve your practical speaking skills.
That makes sense. What about when listening to more difficult accents, like Scottish or Australian? I struggle to understand them sometimes.
That's a common challenge, Andy. When encountering difficult accents, try breaking down the listening experience into smaller segments. Focus on key words instead of understanding every word. Over time, your brain will start to fill in the gaps. Also, repeat phrases that sound challenging. This way, your ears become more attuned to the differences. Exposure is key.
That's helpful. You mentioned COCAS. What does that stand for?
COCAS stands for Contextual Communication Skills. This is about understanding how context changes your communication. For example, your tone and formality should shift based on whether you're speaking with friends, presenting in a meeting, or responding in an interview. To improve here, engage in role-play scenarios and reflect on how your speech needs to adapt to different situations. This builds communicative versatility.
That's a new perspective. I hadn't thought about adapting based on context consciously.
Many learners overlook this, but adaptability is crucial in mastering spoken English. You want to feel confident navigating different contexts fluidly. It's about expanding your range of expressions and approaches to fit any situation comfortably.
Can you give me an example of how I could practice COCAS?
Certainly. For instance, you can practice by recording yourself speaking about a topic, first as if you're chatting with a friend, and then again as if you're giving a formal presentation. Notice the differences in vocabulary, sentence length, and intonation. You could also participate in group discussions with various roles to refine how you communicate depending on your audience.
That's very insightful. And finally, what about grammar? Should I still be studying grammar rules actively?
Yes, but with a strategic approach. Instead of just memorizing grammar rules, focus on functional grammar, understanding why we use certain structures in different contexts. For example, practice using conditional sentences in hypothetical scenarios or past perfect tense in storytelling. When you practice speaking, Aim to use these structures deliberately until they feel natural.
So, grammar should be more of a tool for expressing myself rather than a strict set of rules?
Precisely. Grammar is your toolkit for clarity and precision. Use it to build coherent and engaging communication, rather than aiming for textbook accuracy at all times. Native-like fluency is about expressing your thoughts naturally and flexibly. Grammar becomes intuitive once you've practiced it enough in meaningful contexts.
How can I get more comfortable using more complex grammar in real-time conversations?
Great question. Try role-playing scenarios where complex grammar fits naturally. For instance, practice telling a detailed story in the past tense or debating a hypothetical situation using conditionals. You could also have reflective conversations where you discuss what you would have done differently in certain situations. This helps reinforce complex structures in a way that feels practical and relevant.
That's a good idea. I could try recording myself reflecting on a situation or having a debate with a friend.
Exactly. This way, you're not just practicing grammar in isolation. You're integrating it into realistic communication. And it's a more engaging way to practice too. Remember, flexibility and comfort come with repeated exposure and use in meaningful contexts.
Thank you, Professor. This approach seems comprehensive and practical. I really appreciate the depth of your insights.
You're welcome, Andy. Keep focusing on these key elements, and remember that language learning is a journey. Regular practice, self-reflection, and adaptability will get you to where you want to be. And always keep a curious mind. Language is about connecting ideas, thoughts, and people. Enjoy the process.
I will, Professor. I'm motivated to try these strategies. Thanks again for your guidance.
It's a pleasure, Andy. Remember, each conversation is a new opportunity to refine your skills. Keep pushing forward and enjoy every step of the way.
The professor emphasizes that mastering spoken English isn't just about learning isolated skills, but integrating pronunciation, intonation, rhythm, flow, listening, contextual communication, and grammar into a cohesive approach. By focusing on minimal pairs to fine-tune pronunciation, treating intonation and rhythm as a language's musicality, and understanding the importance of context, Andy is encouraged to cultivate a deeper connection with the language. Practicing these elements in meaningful, context-rich scenarios helps solidify them into intuitive, natural speech. The professor leaves Andy with a powerful message. Language learning is a journey that requires curiosity, consistency, and adaptability to refine speaking skills and connect meaningfully with others.
Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe, like, comment, and share to keep the English learning journey alive.